Hey, Dr. Valerie Rain with you today with the final installment in the 6-part series on prison guards, trauma defenses that show up in all the ways that you thought were the signs and symptoms of something being wrong with you. And the purpose of this series is to show you that these trauma adaptations are natural responses to stress and trauma that are not a sign that something is wrong with you, but quite the opposite. It is a sign that your system is working exactly as designed, protecting you and keeping you safe. And some of these ways in which your system is keeping you safe are outdated, and it is protecting you from dangers that are no longer actually technically there. And that's a whole other story that I'm going to touch upon in this video later today. How to unwind from the outdated programming and how to use these biologically sound mechanisms to keep us safe, but use them consciously instead of them unconsciously keeping us in the invisible inner prison of patriarchy, stress disorder, and other traumas. Earlier in this series, we covered prison guards, aka trauma defenses, that show up in the spectrum from appease, stress trauma response, fight, flight, freeze. Then we went into shutdown in the previous video, and today we're going to talk about somatization. So the spectrum of trauma responses or stress responses go from the mildest state of overwhelm to the greatest state of overwhelm. So the system will pick and choose based on the state of overwhelm, what response it's going to use. And that's why it's very important to know when you are finding yourself in what part of the spectrum of the prison guard or trauma response. It's crucial to understand that because the costs of these prison guards are also escalating from appease to somatization. All right, so I hope that you've been getting a lot of insights and surprises from the earlier videos, and if you've missed those, you can watch them right here on this page. And today we're going to talk about the kind of the ultimate stress trauma response, or what they lead to ultimately if trauma and stress become chronic and not addressed, as is the case with intergenerational and collective trauma, such as the trauma of patriarchy stress disorder, such as the traumas of racism that are intergenerational in nature, and that stress gets passed down from generation and generation to generation. And so are the prison guards. They also get passed down. If there is no space to uncover and heal, which our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents very well did not have that space, they get packaged and passed down, and oftentimes as somatization. My own story uncovering patriarchy stress disorder begins in the ER, where I ended up because my body was somaticizing the stress and trauma unbeknownst to me. I was shocked when my diagnosis in the emergency room was, quote unquote, just stress, when the left side of my body went completely offline, because I did not actually feel stressed. I did not feel stressed. I had been in shutdown. I had been in freeze most of my life. I just felt normal. Overworking was normal, as we unpacked overworking as a fight response earlier in these videos. Not being in my body was normal. That's just was normal. I didn't know there was another way to be and feel, but that wake-up call in the ER was significant enough for me to pause and inquire, why was there such a level of stress in my system, and why was I not aware of it in the first place? Because that's concerning, right? And there are so many other stories. I know that you know women who lived a similar story, and maybe you are one of them. Maybe that's part of your story too. being stopped in your tracks by a health expression. And I'm here to share with you today that it is not your fault. You're not doing anything wrong. It is not your shortcoming. There are bigger forces at play that we need to unpack and understand so that we can create leverage and space for our body to heal and distress and feel good and actually keep on raising the bar on how good can it get in terms of how we feel. So when I landed in the emergency room and I started asking myself this question, or a series of questions, why was there so much stress? Why was I not aware of it? That's when the research from the field of epigenetics was coming to my awareness as part of the answer, showing that traumatic experiences are genetically transmitted. And that was the moment that connected the dots for me and led to discovering patriarchy stress disorder. Hey, women have been oppressed for thousands of years. Our bodies did not belong to us. We could not express authentically our ideas. Our children did not belong to us. We could not love who we loved. We could not marry for love. We could not get a divorce. We could not make our own money. We could not contribute our gifts to the world and be paid for that. So, hey, that shit's traumatic, and that trauma has been living in our bodies for generations. And the stress responses of appease, fight, flight, freeze, shut down might have not been sufficient to cope with that trauma. And so a lot of that shit got somaticized. Again, generation after generation. So if we look at intergenerational transmission of patterns, we also see some stress-related conditions that get transmitted from generation to generation. Now, there are a lot of components to that. It's not clearly understood that is exactly the mechanism and that's how it functions. But I'm going to pull down the veil and bring to your awareness what we do understand, and then help you have you connect the dots for yourself. Okay, so the biggest study that was done to understand the impact of trauma was the ACEs study that looked at adverse childhood experiences over time and tracked people who have reported having a series of adverse childhood experiences, from abandonment, big emotional experiences in childhood, neglect, etc., etc. You can look up the study. It is really awakening. It is really eye-opening. And they correlated that they connected these adverse childhood experiences, traumatic experiences, with negative health outcomes, with pretty big health conditions that developed later on in life, as long as overall life not going the way the person probably desired. Trouble in relationships, trouble in the work settings, etc., etc. So why I'm bringing this to your awareness is because this is scientific evidence of connection between traumatic experiences and health outcomes and other negative outcomes, right? So this study did not look at intergenerational patterns, intergenerational trauma, such as patriarchy, stress disorder, such as the trauma of racism, etc. So this is for us to connect the dots and ask ourselves, if we have been passing along this high charge in our nervous system and we've had no possibility to actually heal, to actually unpack everything that has been creating this experience of being unsafe in our bodies. And more than that, that unsafety continues generation after generation. Just being in the world, being a woman in the world is not a safe experience. So we keep on getting re-traumatized. And then is that a coincidence that high-achieving women, visible women, are suffering overwhelmingly from burnout, from chronic health conditions, from migraines, from trouble sleeping, from conditions specifically affecting the feminine organs? So these are the dots for us to investigate. Are they connected somehow? And in my experience, this is how I'm investigating those things. And with our thrivers, women who are on this journey of uncovering and healing PSD and other traumas in their lives in our programs, specifically in the Thriving Circle. So this is what my investigation looks like. Sometimes I would have an unexplained ache or pain in a particular area. Let's say it's my hip. All of a sudden it starts complaining. Now, I did not injure it in any way. I did not overwork it. There is no, like I didn't sit funny or sleep funny, right? There's no technical reason why it should be hurting. So right away, we're looking at the mind-body connection. Is there an emotional component? What is going on underneath that pain? What is my body actually expressing? And then using the tools that we use in our programs, and these are the tools that I use myself, mind-body energy tools. And Jeffrey is my partner in life and this work, so he helps me investigate, facilitate this work. And every time I go underneath and release the emotional charge underneath, I investigate what is my body telling me. And I work with the stress response underneath, the pain goes away. The pain goes away. And I'm left wondering, hey, had I not attended to this, would it have become a chronic thing? And the answer is, well, the true answer is I don't know. I am wondering. But I suspect that that is the way it often goes. Because if we don't have the tools to address what is underneath that presenting health concern, and we are just either ignoring it, right, or we'll go to the doctor and the doctor will say, well, get some Tylenol, or just like there's nothing serious. Like I was told in the ER, it's just stress. Nobody helped me investigate it further. Like, girlfriend, the left side of your body went offline. Maybe you should go see somebody about what's going on, right? So if that's left unattended, let's say day after day, I'm just ignoring the pain in my hip and I keep on going, then my body is going to create other adaptations around the pain. Maybe my knee will be out of whack and my ankle, the way my body carries itself will shift, the balance will shift, other dominoes will start falling, and this condition may very well become chronic. Okay, so we can, speaking from experience, we can catch these things early on and address the emotional expression underneath, and it shifts things in the moment. We also have thrivers who are working on healing PSD in our programs, and they have had chronic health conditions, such as Tori, who shares in her testimonial about chronic migraines that plagued her for years. And now using these tools, she doesn't get migraines anymore, right? Sleep restores, like this. One of the first things that our women see shift for them doing this work is that the sleep restores. And as we know, when we sleep, that's the time when our body restores herself. This is when healing happens. This is when digestion happens, healthy growth happens, renewal, rejuvenation. And sleep is one of the first things that gets compromised as a stress response and trauma response for women, because the nervous system is preoccupied with keeping us alive, keeping us safe, keeping us vigilant, so it never fully relaxes until we start helping it with all of these tools. We see shifts in women who have had chronic pain, fibromyalgia, different conditions that they've been working with diligently, holistically, engaging medical care. They did not leave any stone unturned. And this work comes in as the missing link. What happens when we also create space for emotional healing? How inflammation is affected, how sleep is affected, how pain conditions are affected, and also unwanted weight gain or weight loss that has not been responsive to other things like changes in diet and exercise, or it has not been sustainable. We have thrivers who share with us amazing stories about releasing weight that did not feel authentic without even realizing it, simply by using the tools and creating that safety in their body, in their nervous system. When that safety is created, first of all, we're not reaching for the coping with food and alcohol and immobility, right? We are not reaching for that as much anymore. And simultaneously, we're not pumping out cortisol anymore as much. And so everything begins to rebalance itself. Plus, we sleep better, helping the body again rebalance. And that all supports healthy metabolism, rejuvenation, healing, and growth. And it sounds miraculous. It sounds miraculous to me every time I hear a story of a woman who's been in pain for 20 years and now she has pain-free times, and those times are stretching and stretching and stretching. Or a woman who's struggled to release weight for many years, just being in the state of war against her own body, and now she let go of the war, she stopped the war, and she's releasing the weight without even realizing it, right? Without even making conscious changes in her diet and in her movement routines. And I'm sharing this with you because this is within reach. This is accessible to all of us. This is accessible to all of us. I want to end this series on the note of not only hope, but a real possibility. Because we know from research that not only trauma is genetically transmitted, but so is healing. What does that mean? It means that right now we have the unique opportunity to stop the cycle of intergenerational transmission of trauma, be it PSD, be it other traumas. And we do it by healing ourselves. And if you're thinking, oh, I already have kids, what do? I already messed them up. No. Those changes that we experience affect everyone around us. I started doing this work when my daughter was little, and she was already showing the adaptations, the trauma adaptations that she inherited from me, that I inherited from my ancestors, etc. And she also got socialized into, being in daycare and receiving all these negative messages about her body and how it's shameful and not okay and holding back. And as I was deepening into my healing and reclaiming my wholeness, reclaiming my power, and being comfortable in my own skin and my full authentic expression, or fuller and fuller, I can't wait to get to know my fullest authentic expression. I hope to get to do it this lifetime, but I know that with each layer, more of who I truly am is available to me. She has been mirroring that and leapfrogging that big time. She is my role model. But I know that by doing this work, I gave her the safety and I gave her the permission to do that as well. And it's unspoken. We role model this. It doesn't matter what we teach verbally. It matters how we're showing up and how we are inside our own bodies. If I am not feeling pleasure and joy, how can I teach that? How can I imprint that it's possible and she can live a life where she feels and prioritizes pleasure and joy, where they're non-negotiable for her. And this is why I'm so passionate about this work, because it is in our hands right now. We have all these scientific findings that show us exactly how this all plays together, the mind, body, the energy. And yes, these studies, this data is not complete, but they show us enough connections for us to connect the dots for ourselves in the way that makes sense to us. So if this is resonating for you, and by the way, if you missed previous videos, I highly encourage you to watch the entire series of how these trauma adaptations, these prison cards show up in your life. Take notes, journal about that, leave comments, leave questions. And you have a unique opportunity to actually have a one-on-one call with one of our graduates, one of our thrivers who has completed the Thriving Circle, our year-long program, and is also on a mission of sharing what they've learned, what has become possible for them. And they can sit down with you, help you identify your prison guards, make more space for your authentic expression, for your authentic desires, help you map out your jailbreak journey. And if it feels aligned, tell you more about how you can continue this journey with our support. This is what we do day in and day out. And if you click on the last link in my bio, you can see the stories, you can watch the stories from our thrivers and the amazing things that have become possible for them through this healing work. Things that they didn't even know they wanted when they were joining the program, because their imaginations didn't even stretch that far. And it's not just because, oh my gosh, what's wrong with your imagination? My imagination never stretched this far. I could never have imagined, because it would have been so unsafe. I wouldn't have even seen the opportunities that now are there for me every day. I would have never considered that they would be possible for me. And probably the most mind-blowing thing that I'm experiencing every day, that I also never thought would be possible for me, is waking up and feeling happy, waking up feeling energized, going to bed feeling fulfilled, and throughout my day feeling so much joy, connection, and pleasure. Now, I'm sharing this with you, and you also need to know that my baseline was waking up feeling anxious, going to bed feeling guilty and feeling shame and feeling like stressed at the very least. Like I was always falling short of something. I was always short on time. I was always short on money. I was always short on how I was showing up in the world. I was never comfortable in my own skin. I would get glimpses of feeling good here and there, but most of the time I was anxious and I was periodically depressed. And the only ways I was coping with was with all of these prison guards, right? All of these prison guards were my daily companions, overworking, overeating, overdrinking, disconnecting, somaticizing, all of these things, and appeasing also, and being in flight, not showing up to my own desires, not even knowing what my true authentic desires were. That was my baseline. And now it's very different, but I couldn't have imagined it starting out. I could not have imagined. The only thing I knew was that I wanted some relief. And that's what propelled me on this journey. And I'm here to tell you that it gets so much better than just getting relief. And I want you to get relief, of course. But it's really about shifting the paradigm of being from how much can I bear, from compromising and sacrificing and tolerating. Oh my gosh, what a disruptive question that is. What am I tolerating? Dare to ask yourself this question, and you will see how many things begin to come into your awareness, right? Shifting from that paradigm to the paradigm of how good can it get? And you can't see the whole terrain from where you're starting. Maybe what you can see, maybe your desire is just about shifting this one thing. Maybe I just want to make more money. Maybe I just want to improve my relationship. Maybe I just want to have sex again with my partner. Maybe I want to meet a partner. Maybe I just want to wake up and feel happy. And if your prison guards swoop in response to that and tell you that this is selfish, this is not okay to want that, this is the opposite of the truth. Because the more you embody your happiness and well-being, the more you step into your power, the more you make money, the more you show up in alignment with your mission, with who you truly are, with the role you get to play here in the world, be who you have come here to be, all of who you are, the more you make it safe and you make it possible for others. The more you show up as who you are, the more you make it safe and possible for others. I was recently at a live event, and with high achieving beautiful women, and I was sharing at the mic, and a woman came up to me afterwards, and she said, I so appreciate you shining brightly and showing up authentically and sharing from that place, because, and the woman's name is Beth, and so she said, because the more you're Valerie, the more I am Beth. The more you are Valerie, the more I am Beth. So this is your power. This is your power. This is why you're a big deal. Yes, I want you to do this work because I want you to be happy and free and fulfilled, make lots of money and feel lots of pleasure, have amazing relationships, have fun with your kids, etc., etc. Yes. But the real big game is that your transformation transforms the world. You embodying the change, embodying this change creates permission and safety for all. So the least selfish thing that you get to do is get serious and take ownership of uncovering and healing these traumas. And we're here to support you in that, because this is big work, and this is not something to go alone. I could never do this alone. Collective trauma requires collective healing, and that's exactly why we have created the Thriving Circle. And right now we're in the final days of completing our cohort that is starting next week. So this may be, the clock is ticking on the opportunity to get started and interrupt that cycle of how much can I bear right now and get on the how good can it get adventure with us. You may not know what it's going to be like. If you watch those testimonials from our thrivers, you will see that none of them knew what it was going to look like, feel like. It was a huge leap of faith. But what they did know was that they could not stay in the invisible prison of PSD a day longer. They could not be held back by the prison guards a day longer. They could not sacrifice and compromise and tolerate a day longer. So if you're feeling this, but the prison guards are coming in and saying, what's one more day? What's one more month? What's one more year? Or you can figure this out yourself. Just recognize that these are prison guards, because you always know what they are by the results of their actions. If their actions, their stories result in everything remaining exactly as it is, status quo, that means that's prison guards in action. So I'm so excited that together over the course of these 6 videos, we have gotten to know them better. I hope that it does not stay at the level of, oh, I received some good information. This is interesting. Well, first of all, if that was good information, please share. Please share with your friends, because this is information that everybody needs. First step, waking up in prison. First step is awareness. This is how we set ourselves free. But there are a lot of other steps from waking up to truly being free. And we have been doing this work for over 40 years combined between Jeffrey and I. We have been collecting trauma healing, mind, body, energy trauma healing tools for all this time, and have been on this long, winding journey so that you don't have to. Because we have synthesized the most effective tools that we've brought together, that we continue refining, and the results speak for themselves. Our thrivers, they share their stories, last link in bio, that blow our minds every single day. And I can't wait to witness your jailbreak story, your thriving story. So if this resonates, even if the prison guards are jumping in to squash it right now, and especially if they are, click that first link in bio, schedule your appointment with a Thriving Journey Guide so that you can give your authentic desires and your life designed by your authentic desires a fair fighting chance. We're here to support you, and it's truly a pleasure changing the world with you. Thank you for being a champion of PSD awareness and healing. Thank you for showing up today, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside in the Thriving Circle if you discover that this is a path that feels aligned to you. So I will talk to you soon.